So, first of all the ideas or whatever I share here is just entirely my own. They don't represent any of the companies that I work for or have previously worked for. So they entirely my own kind of perceptions or my beliefs, basically. Okay. Okay. Right. So I think we have a lot of people on the call. Many of us very experienced, some are also up and coming. So we'll try and blend it so that everybody gets a share of it. So forgive me if I'm becoming a bit boring or going to into details or low. We still have some people who today might be their first time joining a safety webinar and probably will want a bit of more explanation. So let's bear with each other as we learn across. Okay. Um, I'll begin by sharing a story. So I worked in a company some years back, and we did have some safety targets for ourselves. We set some number of days we wanted to go injury free. We did very well, and we were able to achieve that first kind of milestone. Then we increased it even higher. And so for a very long time, I think the site was safe. There were no injuries, not even first aids. And for me, looking back, what I realized was that over time, the conversations started changing a bit. Now, when we met people, I mean, during our interactions, it was more around what are we going to get when we achieve this milestone? When we achieve this, what are we going to get? Are you going to give us some money? Are you going to give us all of that? And yeah, like I said, in hindsight, I feel like maybe it just drifted a bit towards that more. Um, we did not meet the second target, and it didn't end with a first aid, it didn't end with an MTI, it ended with a fatal event. Okay. And it was a very sad event. A site had gone very long without any events, celebrated the first milestone, and then we ended it not with a minor injury, but with a loss of somebody's life. That has got me thinking as to how a seemingly stable site, systems in place, the people doing what people seem to know what to do, all of a sudden someone dies from it. And I think today's topic delves a bit into some of these things and why we should always be chronically on these, especially as safety professionals and also as leaders who are in our organizations. Okay. So I'll try and then moving through this slides. Unfortunately, we still see a lot of fatalities in 2026 and in recent times. I was just trying to search through, there's just so many, I had to restrict to only the first quarter of 2026. And across, there are so many fatal events all over, from the very advanced countries all the way to our very own GH and also other countries in Africa. And as you can see, they span across with kind of different fatal risk. Uncontrolled release of energy, we are seeing fatalities during lifting activities at construction sites. We have ones that include uncontrolled use of energy again. We are seeing things with contact electricity, vehicle pedestrian interactions. All these things are leading to people's death as of 2026. In Ghana, and I didn't do a lot of research, just off my mind, what I've heard, I know of at least two fatal events around unprotected edges or kind of open holes leading to people's death. And if any of us, for those of us who are practitioners and any of us who have been on any site where any of these have occurred, you know the impact of this on so many fronts. You know the impact of this. I had unpleasant experience of joining one team to go and tell someone that their dad was not coming home that day. In this case, he was not even a fatal event. He had a very serious injury and had to be airlifted to Accra. And the wife, I can't describe the feelings of what happened that day. The wife had to dress up just with us and then follow with a car to Accra just to go and join the husband in Accra. And I'm just thinking of if the person had died. Okay. Some of us here would have seen some of these firsthand, having to tell family members that your husband, your brother, your son, your sister is not joining you today because he came to work at our end and then the fellow is gone. We know the impact of this, once again, on the families, lasting impact. Some of them, yeah, we tend to forget about them, but it just lingers on, and their lives are eternally changed. We also see the impact of this at the workforce, the morale, the legal part for me is a smaller part. Then the morale of the team, like I said, and even the reputation of the company itself. So we never want to see it. Even the people who we think don't care, they don't want anybody to die on their sides. No one really wants anybody to die whilst they are on the site or whilst they are in charge. And I know that safety professionals certainly do not want to see any of these during our time. So I believe that anything that concerns fatal events, serious events, are things that all of us are going to take really seriously, even if it's just one thing, right? So, like I said, we've seen some in Ghana, and then in the public space, you would have seen a few as well. You will see that, I mean, most of us will remember the May night disaster at Ohenijan Sports Stadium. Some of us will remember the one at Circle, the flood and explosion at the Circle. We had a building collapse, I think Malcolm, at Achimota, 2012. And we've seen a couple of fatal events or very serious incidents involving galamsey pit failures or illegal mining activities. These things all still happen, unfortunately, and one reason why we cannot rest, one reason why we cannot say, oh, we've arrived, right? There's one thing that you see with most of the previous event, the one we saw on the previous slide, and they are very similar to the story I shared about the company that I worked with. They happen after a long period of stable work, sometimes very sharp declining injury rates. Seems everything is working. And then all of a sudden we do have the shock of our lives when we get those events. And I've just have a short where they're saying that obviously, once you have been involved in any event or immediately after the event, everyone becomes much more curious because now the bubble is broken. The things that we thought could not happen have happened, right? The things that we thought we were resilient against, it's been broken, and now everybody feels like, oh, we're actually that vulnerable, right? And that is what, again, as team members, as professionals, we really want to fight against, or we want to support our teams to prevent, because the regret is always so huge that you tend to not forgive yourself. So I think that gives a bit of what I mean, or what we mean when we say comfort, right? So comfort, from what we've explained, is you go long periods with no serious events, things seem to be working, everybody seems to know what they are supposed to do. On the surface, you are seeing that people are doing their job, there are no events, they are not reporting a lot of high events. And yeah, you see that, like I said in my example, the conversations change. Now we start thinking about how do we plan some games? How do we, I mean, the conversation shifts from the very important things that they are involved in on their daily work to other ones, because we think that, yeah, we have arrived, or we have matured. People are now very experienced, people know what to do. And so we tend to kind of shift from that now. So, but then once we enter that zone, the moment we enter that zone where we think that things are okay, then we start normalizing deviation. So we will see some examples in the next slide of some of the deviations that we tend to normalize. We will now begin to say things are okay. The very weak signals that are happening, we brush over them. And sometimes we don't even see them, we become numb to them because they become kind of normal, part of the normal operations, right? Controls which in our procedures on paper, but the execution is not as to what it is imagined or what is stated to be. Okay. And work still gets done, nobody's injured. So you say, yeah, why not? Let's continue to work that way. And all of us now become very, very less vigilant. Okay. So these are some of the things that all of us agree, or we can all agree as what we mean by comfort. Okay, so we are just progressing steadily. We are talking about comfort being a risk, and then how chronic unease can be a solution to that. Okay, so we want to talk about the fact that comfort is still is a risk. Now, like I said, just a few examples so that we are all setting our minds what we are saying. So we see some examples on site. Yes, there's a decline, there is a ramp there, but you see vehicles normally braking hard at some portions. Okay, there's some particular area where people are always struggling in that area. But of course, there are no events they manage to go through all the time. Um, yeah, they report about it, but yeah, there's no collision. Yeah, it's okay, don't worry. We are fine. Okay. We still do our inspections, and then in your checklist, yeah, this actually meets it probably even meets the requirements, right? The window height, the gradient is okay, and the weight is fine, there are drains there and all of that. So yeah, why not? Those things are okay, at least on paper. Okay. Yeah, there's some, yeah, yes, there's a standard, there's a procedure that says that yes, before you work on this, bleed it, ensure that there's zero energy, the pressure is zero, lock it out. But yeah, I mean, the team knows that these things, I mean, once you release after a time, because it takes a long time to be fully released, you know. And so after 15 minutes, yeah, you can start to work on them. It's usually fine, even though it's not showing zero. That's fine. We've worked on it a couple of times and there are no events. It helps us to meet also our target. We can't keep on waiting. So yeah, this becomes normalized. We begin to kind of accept it, right? Then managers come around. There's a few spills there. Yeah, I mean, clean it up. Yeah, fine. But these are things that everybody now begins to accept. Okay. Now, I put something on this previous slide, and that really aligns what I'm saying here. And probably we speak a bit more about it, that safety work is not equal to the safety of work, right? So when you are doing your inspections, when you are doing safety meetings, when you are conducting investigations, when you are doing your risk assessment with them and co, that is safety work. Those are demonstrated things to show that you are doing safety work, and that shows that you are complying, you are doing your reviews, your risk reviews and co. You're complying to kind of the set things in your book or in your plan or in whatever system that you are subscribed to, or the regulations. Okay, that is safety work, but that is not the same as the safety of work. Okay, it's important that we know that difference, that doing that work does not mean operationally we are safe. Okay, we can be doing all of that, tick all the boxes, and then still have serious issues or have your system under serious threat underneath. Okay, so again, when we've spoken about this slide, we have other things. So these are just three examples, and then we will move on. We have your alarms frequently, they beep up, but they are false alarms. Okay, so there's alarm beeping, and then it's false alarm. After a while, yeah, everybody now accept that these alarms have issues, and you have some gas monitors, they keep beeping at some point. What do you do? Cover it for a while and then it stops, or put it somewhere and then it stops, because we know this is not really, it's not a correct kind of reading, or we are not under risk yet, right? It's not hazardous as at now. So why is it beeping? So these kind of nuisance alarms, nuisance kind of trips, yeah, it comes up a couple of times. And then, yeah, so let's look at those of us who have experience. This has been happening. Don't worry about it. Just forget about it. Let's do our work. But the control is still on the paper in our book. That is what we have written in our plan, management plan, our procedures. These are the controls that we have. Okay. So what we need to understand here is that the fact that we have these things that people don't trust, that it just shows that already we are not being protected. Okay. If there's a control, but the people think that this is faulty, it doesn't work, then even though the control is there, we are not going to be protected. Now imagine you having say a gas alarm or maybe an emergency alarm, right? And then it beeps for a while. So people, and it's their nuisance alarm. So we tend to know that, oh, these are not real. Even if it gets fixed after 6 months, do you think they'll take it seriously? No, because in the 6 months I wasn't working, we still did our work, we did everything, and then there was no injury. So why should we care now that it's working? Okay. And then the day that it actually wants them, people do not want to, they will not kind of respond to it because they've been used to a certain kind of life and they've usually gotten away with it. Yeah. Okay. So just go back to my earlier example. This should be a worry. It should be a source of worry for all of us. Okay. When we have clean slate for some time, we are not having the injuries, but we are seeing these minor things that are happening, then we should be worried. Just as in my case, before major accidents, we probably will feel the safest. Okay. The accidents happen in very stable systems, areas where we think we're experienced, where we think we've made it, where we think we've arrived. Those are the times that the big calamities actually happen. Okay. And when we think we are familiar with the system, when we think we are comfortable, when we think things are okay, those are the times where we easily ignore these weak signals and then we get shocked. Okay, so again, take this one from this presentation, that when the work feels too normal, when the work is too routine, and then also too comfortable, know that the risk is not reducing, is actually increasing at the background. The risk is increasing at the background. Okay, right. So, and the moment we step into that zone, we begin to have that drift. Okay, so you see a big gap between how your procedures are written and then what is being implemented on the ground, or what people say work as imagined versus work as done. So you see top management thinking everything is okay. We've got the procedures, everything is perfect. But if anyone cares to really get very close to operations, you realize that what is being done at the operational level on the shop floor at the front line is way different or has drifted over time from what managers think is actually happening. Okay. Inspections, yeah, you do your checklist and you probably pass all your audits as well. So that will go on and you'll get your certifications, which will further kind of deceive you that everything is fine, but we know that things are not fine. Okay, because what is on paper and what's in practice are totally different. So I mean, to the outside world, to management and to your shareholders and all stakeholders, you look very strong, in a very strong position, but you're actually living on a time bomb. You are living on a time bomb. So people do whatever they want, not for whatever they want, sometimes not intentionally, but we are not realizing it because we are seeing these things just on paper. I do have a video. Unfortunately, I was struggling to let the audio play. I don't think you're going to hear it, but let me just try again. Is anybody hearing this? Isabella, can we hear the audio? I don't think
There's no sound from my end.
there's
No.
no sound. Yeah. So unfortunately, I was trying to. My technology is just making me that, but it's just a short video, and I'll probably talk through it. So in that case, I'll have to probably just also lower my audio here so that I can do the talking through this. Okay. So this is explaining, kind of introducing, having gone through the comfort, and I believe most of us a bit understand what we mean by comfort. Maybe if I can see some thumbs up to say that we are okay with what comfort means, and then we can move on to the next part, which is the chronic unease. All right, thank you very much. So I'm seeing some. Yeah, thank you. Right, so we'll go back to introducing the key part of the presentation, which is chronic unease. And let me see. I hope I have not. Yes. So chronic unease is a follow-up to the comfort conversation that we've had. As you can see, we've had so many incidents in the industry, very disastrous ones. People are losing people in the industry. And it usually happens, like I said, normally after long periods of no injuries or seemingly huge improvement in the industry. Now, the question here is this: when we see very big signals, an example is if you're driving and then you see some kind of smoke coming from your car, you and I will believe, I believe that we are all going to stop. You want to try and find someone to work on this stage mechanic so that these things are sorted, right? Those are the very strong signals. You don't ignore them. How about if it's just a very little sound you're hearing in your tie or just underneath? Do we really do the same thing? Do we stop to have it checked, or do we just say, this is very small, I think it's just going to go away by itself? I think most people just ignore that because it's a very weak signal. Most people ignore this because we think that this is not a huge thing and we can usually go by it. So this is where we draw the line with chronic unease. It's about making sure that whether the signals are strong, we actually take it seriously, and then we do work on it. Just let me check again. Can you hear me, please? And is my network okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Right. So we continue with that. So this video, the whole idea is to let us know that we need to pay attention to the weak signals, to the smaller signals, just like a small knock, a small noise you're hearing beneath your car, as much as you'd have paid attention if it was a smoke coming from the engine compartment. So basically, that is what this video sought to say. By that, now I think we can now kind of define what chronic unease means. So it's a constant healthy discomfort about how risks are managed. And we really have to be careful so that and then you draw the line at the right place. Okay. And I have got one slide somewhere which talks about what chronic unease is not. So I think we'll get there. I don't want to jump the gun. So basically, some of the ingredients are questioning what you see. I mean, things may be going all right. Your stats may be saying that things are okay, but can you look beyond the numbers? Can you look beyond just the very key ones, the popular ones everybody talks about, that just a TRI-5 and the number of injuries that you are seeing? And can you really go into the work and see what is happening there? I mean, most of us get a lot of data from the work that is done, the safety work that is done by supervisors, by leaders, and by ourselves. But we probably don't spend so much time looking at what the data is telling us. Okay, so it's important that we question what we see, all the things we are hearing, to be sure that we are not, being deceived by it. Okay. We also have being worried towards risk. Okay, so this is not about the risk itself. It's not just about, yes, I can die, or maybe I can fall from this height, or someone can fall, so the work doesn't happen. It doesn't mean that you have to stop every work because there's risk involved. It's about the controls. Your preoccupation should be about how we are managing those controls. So you look at someone working at height, look at all the possible kind of controls that can be in place, and then be sure that we're actually going on that line. Okay. It's also against, like I said, continuously being curious about what is happening instead of assuming that things are okay. And then making sure that you are not just lowering your risk tolerance and then just saying that, oh, everything is okay, everything's going to be okay. Okay. Now, at this moment, I see that it's 7:30, so I'm just going to speed up a bit, but always, just feel free to let me know if I'm going too fast, because I've got a few slides to let us know. So I'm going to share the slides with the team. So I think I can probably not go through everything. So basically what we are saying is that chronic unease, this is a very critical trait for all of us, especially for safety people, so that you can preempt, you can question things and then kind of put things in, stay alert all the time, and then out of care, try and then see signs early so that we can really mitigate this. Okay. Now, these are some of the key ingredients for the what we call chronic unease. So the first part, we're talking about the question that you're being curious about issues and making sure that even things that we think are safe are being questioned. And obviously, you also have to be improving your knowledge in those areas so you can suggest better things, because some of the procedures were written based on the knowledge that we had at the time. Now, the other one is psychological safety, very key. So this one, as we know, ensuring that we have a healthy kind of a culture within the team where people feel free to speak up, and then they do not fear any kind of, they have no fear of being punished, being sidelined because they spoke up. And that's very key, because if you don't have this, then there'll be a lot happening, but it will be on your blind side. Nobody tells you, because when they tell you, it's taken out of context, they are punished, or they become the target next. The other one is risk competence, and that falls on all of us. We need to continue to improve in our areas. We need to learn more. We need to read about previous events in other industries, in sister kind of companies, so that you know the things that can happen. Because in most of the times, you hear some operational people trying to discount what you are saying, and we look at a slide where what that talks about weak signals. People can easily discount it. It hasn't happened here before. They've always done it this way. Why are you saying this and all of that? If you have experienced it before, if you have seen it happen elsewhere before, it shuts down that argument. Okay, so it's important that all of us try to improve our knowledge and experience of these risks so that we can advise and then we can bring in more things. If we have other tools that can help us to monitor systems, to give us more information, we should definitely try to invest in those. And this is what I was talking about. So a signal may be weak because it can easily be discounted. You may not have an exact event that happened due to that, and people can easily rationalize that way, that, oh, it hasn't happened before. What are you saying? Yeah, maybe you're just going over the board. It doesn't really make sense because probably it's not been seen as having caused a major event before. And this is where we need to, as safety professionals, one of our key skills is the skill of influencing, right? So you want to make sure that for some of these things, you are able to convince the team, you're able to influence leadership, to think beyond the normal, to think beyond the usual, just the basis, right? And go beyond the minimum standard that we have. So it's important that you learn how to influence or how to talk through signals that are even weak. Okay. Now, the thing is, the moment all of us go proactive, even the weak becomes very strong and then important. The moment we now think of what could happen instead of only what has happened or what we know, and begin to now become very proactive on the things that we can improve, even on areas where there hasn't been any events, then we see that even the weak signals become areas of concern, and then we begin to work on them. We don't wait till an event elsewhere on our side before we now think of, oh, this was normal until now. So we now begin to become very, very proactive. Now, just a last slide, probably before we move on to the next part, is what chronic unease is not. Because I feel like some people will now begin to think about, you have to now be afraid the moment you enter the site because there are risks all over. Chronic unease is not fear-based management. It's not about telling everybody that you're about to die or this thing kills somebody here, so and all of that. Like you said, it's not really about just the risk itself, but about the controls and how we can improve those controls, right? It's about thinking proactively and looking at how we can add on more controls or more barriers Okay. And if you look at the background or the foundations of chronic unease, this man that most of us love, Professor James Reason, is a key person, is one of the key people who birthed that. And he, as we know, died at the age of 87 last year. And one of the main things, we know him for the Swiss cheese models and the just culture and all of that. And out of that, we got these kind of models or this kind of mindset change on chronic unease. It's not about fear based. It's not about putting fear in the operations team. It's not about being pessimistic about everything that is happening there, but without also action. It's not having lack of confidence in everything and then also not stopping everywhere just because you think that someone could die. It's really about proactively looking for more controls so that people can now be assured of working safely, and also identifying those weak signals that people are overriding. That is where we need to look forward. So it's not fear-based management. Very important that I state this one here. Okay. So this is not a new program. As a safety person, as a leader, is a behavioral shift, is a mindset shift that you need to have. It's not something you have to go and introduce. I'm introducing chronic unease or whatever it is. It's a shift in mindset, right? It's how you do our work. That is how we need to approach this. Okay. So we don't, and comparing comfort thinking to chronic unease thinking, we don't have to go like, oh, nothing has gone wrong, everything is okay. Or we did our checklist or we did our inspections, everything is okay. And then in the past, since we started this company or this activity, this is how we've always done it. That is not how we should go. Instead, we continue to think ahead, we think outside of the box and look at which other areas that we can enforce more controls, other things that we can add on to the existing controls that we have. So it's more of a thinking thing, but like I said, as a city professional, continue to learn, continue to read about it, risk that you have and the controls that other people are putting in. And then you can help your teams on this. Okay. All right. So we've spoken about some of the weak signals that we were discounting, right? And the moment we become, or we subscribe to this chronic unease, we now come to appreciate that even if we are having false alarms, we need to always respond to it. So you're a safety person there, they're having false alarms. They now they're beginning to say it's nothing. We need to still respond to it because it's better than we do not know when it's happening next, right? And we don't know when the real event is happening. So it's better we respond to the ones that we even think is false as we fix it than expecting a catastrophe when we all think that, oh, it's one of those false alarms. And then again, I've also said it that if you have a clean safety record, at least in terms of the recordables or the lagging indicators, it does not mean that your site is safe. Okay, so the absence of injuries and all of that does not mean that you are free from harm, and it does not mean that the site is actually safe. And that is where thinking of the comfort thinking, that's where if you're not careful, you tend to get kind of surprised at the end, right? So it's really important that we do that. Okay. So in our safety management system, if we are able to now embed this mindset in ourselves, then we are going to see all these, we are going to be very eye-wide, curious. We want to now look at every little thing. And that means that the weak signals are going to be identified. That means that it's not just about production, but it's about how work is being done. Okay, so when the team does a shutdown, they do a very kind of critical activity, complex activity, and then we come out clean. That is good, something to celebrate. But can we look at how it was done? Okay, when things have gone on and we want to celebrate your 90 days or you want to celebrate your 1 year LTI free and all of that, can you look at what has gone beneath it? What are the things that we drove over? How we should not assume, right? We should not assume that everything has been okay. Basically, that's how your safety management system is going to improve. And by so doing, you are going to see the improvement before any major event occur, right? And we are not going to depend solely on these statistics. Okay, right. So for us, safety people, what exactly can we do? What are the things that we should do on a daily basis so that we can kind of have this mindset shift? The first one that I want to talk about is listening, right? I think we are very good speakers. Most safety people can talk for a whole day. They can lecture, they can do trainings, and they are used to speaking, right? But very few have really time for listening. Okay. And it's one of the things that we really need to do. If you are speaking, then you can't hear people talk. And if you don't have time for them to speak to you, then you'll be missing a lot, because how long can you be with them, and how many areas can you be at a time? So there's something always happening at your blind side. There are things happening if it's a shift work during the times when you are not on shift, the times you are doing your safety meeting for one crew, the times you are doing risk assessment to another team, when you are doing investigation. The work is always going on, and then you're always having things that are happening. So you need to have time to really listen. Try, and then in your safety meetings, create a lot of time. Just do the basics, and then allow them to tell you what is really happening. Okay. The psychological safety bit that we spoke about should really be encouraged, and have every means to reassure them that if somebody speaks up, they are not going to be reprimanded. And if anybody has such case, try to get all evidence to debunk that, because it always comes up where people say, yeah, you don't know. When someone said this and something like that happened, or when I say it, I'm going to be sacked, or they're going to sideline me. You need to work with the leadership team to kind of debunk that, because as long as that trust is not there, they are not going to tell you the stuff. And they normally know more than you're telling. Regardless of how smart we think we are, the guys doing the job, they have more expertise than us, and they can hide the things that they want to hide if they don't trust us that we can handle them well. So those are things that, as a safety professional, I think you should master in those areas. You should continually be asking yourself some questions about things that you think you are normalizing. What are the things that are going that we are not kind of paying attention to? What are what assumptions that we are making? Just to bridge the gap between the work as imagined versus the work as done, right? So you need to be there with them, and also looking at the worst case scenarios in most of these cases, and seeing the kind of controls you have, whether you can win in these areas. Okay, I'm trying to make sure that I also give some time so we can talk, because we got only an hour. So again, chronic unease, and I won't talk through about all of this, but it helps us to be resilient. It helps us to prepare ahead of time, to identify things early, to do some kind of verifications, right? And that's something I always say. So it's not about not trusting somebody. Your team can be very experienced, you can like them, but you still need to verify. Okay, so trust but verify. So this person is good, you think that they are doing their work, and sometimes asking them about some certain things feels like you don't trust them. Let them understand that it's actually out of care, right? And in a good team, in a very mature team, you want people to even be happy that someone is checking on them. I have done my isolation all right, but if you are coming to check on that, that is good. That you really care about me, right? I've done all the things that I'm supposed to do. But if you want to verify, that is a mark of somebody that cares. It's not about someone who doesn't trust me. So let's build that culture where checking on people, asking questions doesn't bring about some kind of objections, but rather feels like this person is trying to help me or trying to confirm the things that I've already done. Okay. Let's try to be more proactive, as you have said earlier. Let's not wait for the accident, and let's not be comfortable even when the accidents are not happening. We still have to dig deep. You can always, if you really have the eye and you go to the field, you can always see things. I tell you, you go to the field, you can always see the basic things that we are luckily not leading to events. And if you can solve them, that's what can prolong the injury-free or event-free time that you have. Again, I can't emphasize enough that if you're having an absence of accidents in your area, it does not mean that there's a presence of safety. Okay. The absence of accident is not equal to the presence of safety. And that's what should, kind of let us be on ease, if I should put it that way. It should always put us on an edge so that we can continue to look at the things that we think are in place. And I think it just covers this the next point as well. Safety today does not mean safety tomorrow. So you go around today, the crew there is doing a good job. You come back and you're somehow happy that they are doing the right things, but you cannot assume that they'll do the same thing tomorrow. Okay. It means that we should constantly be checking. We cannot take our foot off the pedal, right? We need to continuously check that. And the final word probably to say is that chronic unease, if applied rightly, is going to strengthen your safety management system. It's not going to breed distrust or kind of stopping every work, but it's actually going to have a healthy way of strengthening, fetching all the very few things that people have ignored, and then making sure that these things are fixed even before they become accidents, right? So the goal is not to make the work feel dangerous, not to scare anyone, but is rather never to let danger feel comfortable. We should never have a chance where people feel okay just because they think accidents have not happened, to feel that they cannot die from those hazards again. Rather, they should constantly be ensuring that all those controls are in place. So basically, there's a short one on that, and I think I've got a few time left so that we can discuss further. Thank you.